What's up guys, Gary Noden again for GenVFX. Welcome to our next tutorial. I kind of, without really realizing it, I've ended up doing a kind of a modeling series. So this is going to be basically modeling 103, seeing as we've had 101, 102, and so therefore it makes perfect sense for this to be the third one. Today we're going to talk about another part of, and in fact it's probably the most important part of the thing about modeling. And patience obviously is a virtue which we have to have, and the reason why is that we need that patience. Number 8 on the guide. If you haven't watched my 8 guidelines as to how to do modeling better in any software, take a look and then watch that one, then watch the second one, and then come back to this one. But the thing that we need patience for is because we need to practice. The more modeling you do, the better you will get. And there's something you can do, which is actually really, it can be really useful, obviously, because it's constantly doing iterations of things. So you're constantly building new versions of stuff, and that is doing some of your own kit bashing. And if you don't know what kit bashing is, let me just open this. This is by Weidi or Weidi Kang, I'm not entirely sure, who's a lead artist at Ubisoft, and this is a bunch of stuff, if I can say this full size, that they have created, lots of assets, and you can see there's similarities in walkways and panels and, you know, extra sort of like doorways and all that sort of stuff, and extra bits and gubbins all over the place. If I push this up here, you can see what they've actually done is they've used this to put together a bunch of environments, and you can see that all the elements they used are the ones that they've built, those big side panels and these extra panels here, and then these ones up here. There may be some extra bits and bobs that they've obviously done, like putting in the actual plant life and whatnot, the vegetation, but it's all basically part of this kit bash here. You can see some of the other elements here that's also parcel of it. Bigger versions of all the units and stuff, but you know, it's the best thing about it is it's iterations, it's variations on a theme. So we can see there's obviously your planter beds, and there's the walls, and it's really, you know, it's really good to be able to do this kind of stuff. This is where, as I said, the patience thing comes in, because what you can do is then you can say, right, okay, well, if someone's going to do that, let's just bring this one back up a second, I could maybe do that as well. And yes, you can. So what we're going to do very quickly is we're going to talk about doing your own kit bashing, because using all the things that we've already learned, you can build pretty much whatever you want to. So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go to the front view so we can see here. And we've got rid of the cube, and I'm going to keep the light, obviously, because why not? And I'm going to add in a mesh. I'm going to add in a grid. And let's open up this here, and let's rotate it 90 degrees in the X, and let's put on the wireframe so we can see the grid. Here we go. And I want it to be half as high again as it currently is, so let's increase the subdivisions in the Y to 15. Let's set the size. Well, I can't really set the size because it's only just as a square, so I'm going to leave that as it is, so it's 2 meters wide. And I'm going to now go into edit mode. I'm going to move it in the Z by 1, and I'm going to move it in the X by 1 as well. So we're actually this side, we're in the XZ plane this side, and then very quickly, lastly but by no means leastly, I'm just going to go SZ 1.5. So now we've got a bunch of lovely little squares, and I'm going to basically move it up again. So let's go GZ 0.25. Not enough. GZ 0.25. There we go. It was GZ 0.5. Of course it was. And we have now a nice rectangle which we can have as a piece of like a wall section. Let's go back into object mode for a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, right, okay, well, that's my base wall size. I will have all my other wall sizes working like this on these edges. I think I need to make some just little setup build changes, maybe. Or maybe I just have this as my standard wall. And you go, okay, fine, let's just do that. But let's not have it exactly like that. Let's firstly, because we may want to have certain things which are the same. So let's start off by going and building from this multiple versions. So let's set that to 1.5. So we're just putting in, say, 5 walls. Yep, that's good. and I'm going to add another array, and I'm going to set this one to be in 1.5 in the Y, and I'm going to bring that down, put it on as 2, just so we've got a bunch of them that we can work with. And obviously if you change one right now, it's going to change all of them. So if you wanted to do a uniform change so that they were all had a base element, this would be a good place to start. So that's exactly what I want to do. I want to make sure that there are a few things that we have here which are across the board of every single one. So I'm going to go back here to edit mode. So we're in this one here, and I'm going to add in just another edge loop up there. And I'm going to add in another edge loop. Here we go. Where are we? Here we go. Here. Like that. And I'm going to add another edge loop here like this to make that square. And then I'm going to add another one in here. So we have another kind of little square in that corner there as well. Just so we have some, because this is, I want a level of consistency across them all so I can put them all together, because they're going to be wall pieces, of course. So let's do that. And then I'm going to just, let's make sure we have a bottom section properly. Yes, bottom section, I said a naughty word. And we're going to take these ones here, these vertices here, and let's look down the side and let's move them forward in the y-axis by 0.2. So let's go G, Y, 0.2, and that's moved them all by the looks of it, has it? That didn't work. What's going on there? Have I, oh, I think, right, let's go G, Y, 0.1. That way. We haven't gone the wrong way. I'm absolutely sure of that. No, we have. No, we haven't. I know what I'm doing. Do I? Let's go back and let's go GY minus 0.2. There we go. So there we have a wall section, and every single one of these has got a level of consistency there. That's good. That's happy with that. This is kind of like the base element for my modeling. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to carry on. I'm going to start doing this modeling to each of these. I'm now going to add, I'm now going to go to object and convert it to a mesh to get rid of everything in the modifiers. And then I'm going to very quickly go into edit mode, select everything that's in this one here by pressing L. There we go. And I'm going to press P and I'm going to lose parts. So now I've got a bunch of objects. So it's not one object, it's a bunch of them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on this particular one here, which is grid 1. We've got grid 1, grid 0, I suppose. So let's just name that grid 0.000. So we've got 10 altogether. And I'm going to save this under the name of KB. I'm going to save it as KB2 panels because I had some test stuff that I was doing earlier on. So I'm now going to start doing stuff to this one. And I may also at the same time start building extra little elements which I can put into this and put on this one here and so on. So this has now been sped up by 800%. And obviously we've talked in the previous ones about how we're going about doing this sort of stuff, so I don't think there's any reason to completely go over like constantly extrude, offsetting, but one of the things I am doing, which you can see there, I've basically duplicated a patch of the geometry and I have used that as a base for a brand new object. So you'll notice over there I've suddenly got grid 10, which I didn't have before, because it went from 0 to 9. The reason is because I basically duplicated some faces, split them off by using Control P, which basically in Blender separates objects into their loose parts. And then I'm going in there and I'm working on one particular object to kind of like make a screen and then make sure all the quads match up, getting rid of all the triangles that I basically put in myself, and then beveling a bit to actually get rid of the other one. So yeah, it's little bits of tools that you can use, and then of course once I've done this, I've got that as an element that I can just use over and over again. So you know, that works really, really well. And of course then cleaning it up and making sure there's quads everywhere, and then pushing one away and putting it on one side, because what's the point of having a kit bashing if you haven't got elements there you can use again? And it's like here again, what can I do? Well, if I've got a screen, maybe some sort of kind of keyboard of some description might be of some use. So obviously, who knows how many keys you're going to need in a keyboard? It could be more than you think. Could be practically none. So I'm being a bit random with it, as you can probably see. But I kind of like the whole like separation, one stuff and just stuff on one side, one on another. And again, the same sort of thing. At the moment there, that's still part of the same model. Hasn't been split off yet. When it is split off, that's when I'm able to go and turn it into a bunch of things. And that's me turning on some music. One of the things I do love is listening to, it's going off slightly piece here, I do listen to a lot of soundtrack music. I always have done, but it turns out I've discovered from years of now doing this, there's a lot of people who listen to soundtracks when they're working, mostly because they don't like listening to things with words. But I found more recently, actually, if I'm just going off slightly on a tangent, that a lot of new people who come into the business, they listen to anything and everything, and they just don't really care. You'll notice that I took a square and turned that into a circle with a circularized thing, which basically mesh in the loop tools inside of Blender, which is just called Circle. In Maya it's called Circularize. I'm sure there are similar names in other packages. It's only recently come into Maya. It's been in Blender for a long time. And now I'm making some pipes, and I'm doing it basically by using Bezier curves. And then because you can dictate whether they have thickness and also keep the history of them because of the way they essentially have their own personal built-in modifier, if you think about it, you're able to adjust them on the fly, keep the information in the curve, and then when you duplicate it, you can use that as the base for another curve. And so obviously once I've got this one right, and I have these two connectors next to it, I'm going to basically make a couple more. So I duplicate that one and just muck around with it, very much like I am here. And number 2's in place, and there you go. So, and that's me just changing the view. I think sometimes it's difficult to see what you're doing and appreciate how well it's going to look. Limited occlusion just makes everything look beautiful, and so you can actually turn on cavity visibility inside of the Workbench renderer, and I thoroughly recommend it. By the way, that there, I did something which is really, really good, and it's something that everyone should know about, really, and that is I used an unsubdivide. You can pick edges, faces, and if you go into the edge toolset, which is at the top there when you're edit mode, you can actually pick something called unsubdivide. Now, it's very much like the unsubdivide that you get in the modifier. So what it does, if you set the unsubdivide to 1, it takes the vertices and spins all the edges that connect them by 45 degrees. So you go from having straight up and down squares to having squares at 45 degrees. Essentially, it's like a bunch of diamonds. So that is really, really handy for things like grills and so on. I definitely recommend that. And right now, what I'm doing is I am sculpting using the cloth tool, because these are meant to be like pads. So I just like did a little bit of multi-res on them, and then basically applied that and baked it down. So there are a bunch of objects which have the appearance of like a padding thing, and then just a little bit of extra extrusion there just to give them an edge. Give them an edge. And now here we are coming on to the second one, and I'm literally nicking elements from the first one, because why build things twice when you don't have to? And again, that's kind of like the part of the joy of kitbashing, is you get to be able to muck around with these things and mess them a bit. And my kind of garden fence effect just proves to be quite cool. I quite like it, and also I can't tell the fact that it's not actually offset correctly. Me mucking around, not knowing what I'm doing, so I'm just getting it in the right place. There you go. Oh, sorry, excuse me, which I will get rid of. Now, here again, as I said, we're looking for doing something which is similar, not exactly the same, and also sets us up by also helping us to generate even more pads and stuff. So again, taking the polygons, duplicating them off, using control, I think it's Shift D, might be Control D. It's one of these things, it's a button press that I'm used to pressing. And then here again, sort of like making a more circular thing, but this is to make kind of like a bolt. So I'm using fall off to pull the face out and changing it to spherical to get the right sort of feel of that. And then pulling the bolty bit in, and then taking the edges and extruding those back out. And then sort of like putting some more edge loops in there just to give it a little bit of a softer edge. but make it feel like it has got an edge. Doesn't need a back because you're not going to see it. That is a very important thing actually when you're modeling. If you can't see anything, if something is going to be hidden inside of a box, do not build the stuff in the box. Just build the box. You know, if you're going to go back, if you've got a back wall that no one can see, don't build the back wall. It's not important. If you're going to go around it and just suddenly show it, then yes, build it. Again, you see we're stealing bits and bobs here. I'm extruding lines in, and it is offsetting and extrusions to sort of like make panels by beveling the edges and then pushing those in as well. So you get that kind of like rim edge, that little bit of stuff on the edge, on the outer edge. And it's just, as I say, steal and pull it around. And then of course once you've done that, you can do it over here, and then you can do it over there. I kind of lost my controller. I don't know what happened. My actual navigation tools went missing. Don't know where they went. Had a good look for them, couldn't find them. So in a minute or two you'll find that I'll stop and shut this down and restart it briefly and put it back in place. That's the first time I've ever noticed a bug, but now I've got them back and just put everything back in the right place, and I'm very happy. So let's just carry on. So here's our third panel, I think. Is this our third panel? Yeah. So and the third panel again is just stealing bits but putting them in different places on the second panel. So that's kind of the way things work. And again, it's all about reuse, and it's all about building new bits but using lots and lots of old bits, and kit bashing, just building stuff that you can use to make new things and use them repeatedly, and kind of, and then you never know, you can actually stick them on Gumroad and make a few bob out of them as well. Probably better than mine. At least I would like to think you can do better than I can do. Quite pleased with the results there. That's you know, it's I realised I've been in sculpting mode for quite a while. You know, there's a little keyboard, a little sort of like panel that I can use to run the ones there, softer panels like this, and you know, some pipes which we can replete, and because they're cables, we can do what we want with them. But I mean, you know, it's just a bunch of little bits and bobs, and you can just add to them. And then of course, you know, there's other things. So we could say, so I could take, say, one of these, and let's just go Shift D. Let's drop that. Very quickly, let's set the origin to the geometry. Let's move this along to here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of everything apart from these middle three. So let's go to edit mode. Let's go to Alt Z to get through everything that we can pick and make it polygons rather than edges. And go delete. And we're going to delete those faces. Go to edit mode. And if you see now, we also need to put in one of our little subdivision lines that we had at the edge loop, basically. Not subdivision, sorry, the edge loop. And then if we go back to faces, what I can do now is say, well, that's all lovely, I like that, but what I want to do is I want to extrude out a kind of a wall separation thing. So the best thing to do then is to sort of like say, well, say that top bit will stay the same, and probably that bottom bit's going to stay the same as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these faces and that one there. In fact, no, let's do it to that one there as well, and let's extrude these out. So we kind of have that sort of wall division-ness about it. I'm going to press Control B and just put a bevel on those as well. In fact, no, I won't, because I don't want it like that. Just want it on the edges. So let's just do, that's not right. Do that and that. Turn off the semi-transparent nature of it. And then we'll do that to that to that to that. To there, go Alt B, drag out, and you know, you kind of, it's another smaller element, you know, that you can muck around with and build out, and you know, you can actually create lots of these little things which then you can just pull together. You can group them, you know, so it's going to select all of these and then select, you know, show those into a group. So on a joint mode, so Control G. No, it doesn't work that way, does it? But it's a new collection. But you know, you can have things like this, and then you know, you say, well, that's nice. Let's do an Alt D on that, which essentially is a linked duplicate. It's an instance. So if I go into here and I say, well, actually, I want these faces here. I want those to be further out. See, it does it on the other one as well. Or you can say I want those further in. So they're kind of more in keeping with the rest. It gives you that sort of a little bit of control to do stuff with. And you know, you can just muck around, have a laugh, do lots of little bits and bobs, and create yourself your own sort of like elements for a sci-fi corridor. Or, but more importantly, that the point is that you are making elements, and as a consequence, you're doing a lot more of the modeling, which is what you should be doing, because practice makes perfect. Practice makes you a better modeler. There are things in there that you know, I don't mind, but there's a lot in there that I don't like. But the principle is that, you know, I'm doing this quite quickly, and I hope you can see this and go, yeah, that's great. Anyway, I hope you can do a bit of kit bashing. If you do, let me know. I'd love to see what you're doing, actually. Take care, guys. Speak to you all on the next one, and bye.